Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders, so let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it.
The JAMODI podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
You've had the opportunity to work for and with a legendary coach and be around other great coaches. What are three characteristics, and that three number, it can be more or less, some characteristics that you've seen in great coaches?
First and foremost is they're willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
It's for instance, for me, our workout, our weight is 7:45, and we go 7:45 to 8, an hour-ish before first period starts. I'm at the gym at 7 o'clock. If you want to come in and get the extra shots up, somebody's here. So I'm not going to keep you from having a chance to get better, because I'm going to sleep and I'm going to get here right here at 7:45. Now we're going right to the weight room.
Yeah.
So you got to be willing to put the extra time in yourself, I think, if you want the best out of your kids. And people, one of the questions I get asked is about why I became a coach. Well, it's probably a little selfish on my part. I went to a really small high school in Maryland that you did not have athletic periods. I was a 3-sport guy. My best sport was baseball. My high school baseball coach was not as knowledgeable as I was as a high school player, just because I had played it at a high level, select teams, that kind of stuff coming through. So as I got into it, it was, I don't want kids to say that I didn't make them better and I didn't give them an opportunity to get better. And so I have to be willing to put in the time. That's hard work on my part in regards to family. My wife's in bed when I leave the house. So the kids see I'm willing to be here. Now they're a little bit more willing to be here.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first thing. You got to be willing to put it. And I guess hard work's not getting up. I think hard work is the day. If I'm starting my day at 7, and because I coach that second sport, I'm not getting home till 6:30 every night. So I've got to give the basketball kids a chance to get someplace.
Going back to the putting in the work, it makes me think, Coach Mulkey had a good quote that she says she would never ask her players to do something that she wasn't willing to do. So if we're going to ask them to invest time and work hard, then we have to be modeling that ourselves, right?
That's the way I look at it. And I think the kids appreciate that. I think they know when you're invested in them getting better. But along those lines, one of the things that I think we struggle with, especially now with social media, is the amount of video that's out there. And everyone's got a drill, and everybody does this, and everybody's a personal trainer. And then you walk into the gym, and what do you see? I'm going to do what that video is doing. You'll never do that in a game. I mean, and I tell kids, you'll never do that in a game. And what I really mean is you'll do it once. And then the next time, well, you won't get a chance to do it because you'll be sitting down next to me. Because that's not how we are going to do things. We're not going to put you in a situation where you have to do that. And so I have a big issue with, and I know everybody's got to make a living, the crazy drills and shot stuff that these personal trainers are trying to get kids to emulate. Well, you're not 6'6", you're not gifted athletically, and you're trying to do something that only the best players in the world do.
Yeah.
How about pass it, shoot it, bounce it a couple times if you need to.
Yep.
Get good at those things. Boy, we can get you in. And we're going to win lots of games because you can do those things. But between the legs, the Euro step, is there obviously there is part of that's in the game. I mean, you can do that, but it's not something that every kid is going to be able to do.
Coach, I do agree with you on the way that you're viewing some of those things that are out there. I do think there are the problem with how accessible flips are and things is kids trying shots and things that, especially thinking that they can do those in games. Like just because Curry does it, just because Harden does it, like the NBA is a different game. And also they're incredible. They're the 1%ers, and
even less than the 1%.
Yeah. But I do want it full transparency, because if there's anybody that listens to this that's ever heard me talk about skill work and things, Coach, I do dabble. I do dabble with some cones and med balls and some foam rolls. But here's before I lose all credibility with you, I think balance is key. It's like I look at some of the stuff that we do. It's like going to Ruth Chris Steakhouse. Like it's special, hard on your wallet, but no, it's like you don't do it all the time. But you eat at Chili's or you eat at home all the time. Like you got to do the basics and you got to do simple things. Me personally, and maybe it is because of the school that I'm at, being at a smaller Christian private school with kids that don't necessarily, like basketball is usually third or fourth on their list of things to do. It's not the main thing. I am going to make it, for lack of a better word, fun, challenging, and entertaining. But it's not what we hang our hat on.
Right. And I would agree with that. I mean, are there some, especially with Kevin, my assistant coach, young, he does things with them, but it's very rarely, it's something different, break the monotony. I understand all that.
Yeah.
But I wish Kobe was still around, because the message he had was fundamentals.
You're right. Yeah.
And then you get to where he got.
Yep.
But let's not forget how he got there.
Yeah.
Now there are certain things, like I remember with my son, and Matt probably remembers my son. He could shoot it. Now he was never a very big kid, and I'm still upset with man upstairs.
What happened?
But I remember, I'm a permanent pivot foot guy.
Yeah.
When you catch it on the perimeter. And so we're talking about shooting one day in between his freshman and sophomore year. And as you're coming off a curl, I said, you're stepping with your inside foot. That's not my pivot foot, Dad, especially as you're coming from the
side. Yeah.
Stepping with that right foot, and then that left foot comes into it. Well, what do? I say, you shot, fake, and rip and go back with your left foot. He goes, that's not what you tell me. That's not what you tell us. That's not what you said at camp. This is the kid that was at camp from the time he was 5. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, buddy, I don't tell this to everybody. These are the kids that I know exceptional with their feet already. And so you get taught this. The guy that's playing behind you is getting taught, catch. If you don't shoot it, pass it, you don't get the bounce. You understand that's who you are. So is there a place in the game? Yeah, I think there is, because you have that kid. But I think majority of the kids don't spend enough time on the stuff that we don't want them to.
To your point, you got to be great at the stuff you do the most. So even though, like, going off of a stride stop into a finish, there are a bunch of finishes that you can do. The one that you're going to do the most is just a stride stop where you protect it. We call it an and one finish.
Right.
Like that is, if you were to, so we may do something kind of crazy to get to that spot, maybe something that challenges them to get to another level of low that's uncomfortable for them. But we're going to do the basic thing. And then I think too, where, I'm not saying people like me, but people that do, they see a video of a guy doing something that's an overload drill, right? It has some component to it that isn't in the game, that's designed to make this training harder than what it is in the game. But you can argue that, like, if that's necessary, you could say, I always tell kids, if we're just doing normal ball handling, what are 2 ways to make this harder? Increase your speed, decrease your vision. like bring your eyes up, increase the speed of the ball, make it harder that way.
Right.
But if I can't, or whatever you choose to do, and you kind of nailed it too, like make sure that it's helping them to get better at a skill they will use in a game. So you're never going to come to Grapevine Faith and see us working on double step backs. You won't even see a Euro because I don't personally like the Euro. I think it's still a 1 foot finish that is, even though you can change directions, you can really only change one direction once you're sold on it. But if you go off of 2 feet, you can go either direction at that point. But go kind of let me, because I'm taking all your time. I think it's if you can't explain the game behind what you're doing and let them see how this translates, then all you're doing, in my opinion, you might as well have that, like that clown music behind, like a circus. You're just putting on a show, and I am against that. But Coach, you look at some of our videos, you would go, this dude's full of crap. Like they've got a med ball, they're tossing it, they're catching it under their leg. I've seen over time, not just the fun, but maybe getting them a little bit more quicker, engaged, lower through these accountability drills. Sorry, Coach, just took a few minutes.
That's okay. I can understand that. But that's just kind of how I've always been. The fundamentals were, I just master them.
Yeah.
And like we had a young man last night who we're trying to switch his position to get him to be what we would call R5, or a lot of people call it 4, the trail guy, inbounds passer coming down the floor. We're trying to get him to go from there to a perimeter spot. And so last night, he shoots 3 wide open threes. Now, he probably didn't shoot 3 wide open threes all year as a JV player. He didn't make any. They looked good. They were wide open. I told him today, I said, I had no problem with the shots. I had a problem with how you reacted because you missed the shots. Because now your defense suffers. Now you're turning the ball over. Now you're trying to do things off the bounce that you're not capable of.
Yeah.
Shoot the wide open shot. Eventually they're going to go in. And some days they won't. But don't let it affect the other parts of your game that can be positive for us. The missed shot's a negative. Okay. Can you defensive rebound it? Can you make an assist? Can you, set a good screen? Whatever it is, do something positive instead of having a whole game. You did nothing positive for us. Now you're feeling bad, but you're feeling bad because you missed a shot. I'm making you feel bad because you didn't do anything positive.
Yeah.
And there's opportunity for you to do positive things. So that's what you have to learn. And that to me, that's why we play these league games. So the young kids can learn, hey, you mess up, but we're playing hard. We're not sulking, hanging our head. Next play, move on. Let's go. The game's too fast.
And the spring is a great time. The summer is a great time to really let them experiment and fail. Because, I think you kind of feel the same way. Spring league and things like that, it's taken the place of pickup.
Right.
Pickup is where we used to try things without the fear of, you're coming out or you're benched forever so giving guys an opportunity to experiment without the fear of like getting yelled at, but then great opportunity to work on that goldfish mentality that we want them to have, that 10-second memory that whatever just happened, it's done. And I'm completely present where my feet are. I think it's a great time, because if you wait until November to start hitting that habit that you've seen in that player, man, it's going to be too deep, maybe too ingrained at that point.
Well, and I think if it hasn't been brought to his attention, he keeps doing it. And what happens when games start? Well, I know what he's going to do. So your minutes are going down, and you don't want that. And all I want is the minutes to be positive.
Yeah.
And that, I think if there's a stat that I pay attention to now, it's the plus minus stat. How are we doing when you're in the game? And that's a great thing about huddle.
Yeah.
You get the breakdown from huddle and you go, let's see, Mike Brooks, you're a -5. Matt, you're +6. Well, I think Matt's going to play a little bit more next year.
That's right. That's right.
So let's try and minimize the negative and do the positive things that we can get you on the floor.
That's something that I think parents miss out on sometimes is if you get to a point as a varsity player where you're good enough to not do anything wrong, like that's a good place to be.
Oh, yeah.
Where like you don't foul, you don't turn it over, your guy doesn't necessarily score on you a ton, you're not giving up offensive rebounds. Like that's great. But if I give you 15 minutes of time, but then we look across your plus minus or your stat line and it's mainly zeros, yes, you didn't make our game go down or introduce anything negative to it. But I tell our players and parents this: at the varsity level, we are beyond that. We are about positive. What imprint did you leave on the game when you were in and when you came out? But that's where parents and players sometimes, why am I not playing a lot? Johnny's not doing anything wrong. Oh, hold on. We're way past that. If he was doing things wrong, he wouldn't play.
Right.
But what is he doing? Positive. And you know what? Sometimes it's not always stats, but it could be hustle plays. It could be a lot of spirit. That plus minus system for groups of 5, man, Johnny doesn't have a lot of stats, but we were +8 when he was in. There's something to that.
Yeah, and I'll say kids. That probably starts with the parents. There's only one stat they worry about.
Yeah.
And the only thing we try and preach is, there's only one stat you worry about. It's whether we won or lost. That's the only stat we worry about. And so if our point guard, he's going to be a 3-year starter for us next year. And each year I've asked more of him because I'm not going to throw it all on a sophomore. And then this year he did a little bit more. And I pulled him into the office last week and told him, you should be the best player in our district next year. That's the mentality you have to have going in. Because that's what I think you can do. Now, that doesn't mean you're that good right now. I say that's the kind of potential you have. You have to be willing, and he's a great kid. So you have to be willing to put that out there. And you're gonna be trying to do a little bit more. And then we'll talk about whether maybe that's a little bit too much. But to understand that I think you're capable of that. And so that's every young man. Here's what I think you're capable of. Prove me wrong. Prove me that you can do more. But understand it's got to be positive.
Yeah.
And if it's not positive, it's hard to keep you out there. Because, so for instance, last night we had a league game and we lose in triple overtime. And we're playing the league. I heard this from somebody about substitution because, you want everybody to get in. So I tell the guy who's coaching, I said, listen, we're going to go 6 and 6, the 6 and 6 rule. He goes, what's that? And I go, if they give up 6 points, all 5 come out. 6 minutes in, all 5 come out. So you're going to get 6 minutes of play unless you can't defend. So last night, what happens? First group builds the lead, loses the lead. Second group loses it. First group builds it. Second group loses it. And we end up losing in overtime. And I tell the second group, I said, it's not fair. This is what you guys don't understand. It's not fair for these guys to be ahead every single time they're in. And yet we're losing the game because we're getting zero productivity out of you. That's where you have to bring the positive. What can you do positive? Maybe the positive is you score 1 basket and you hold the other team to 0. We didn't lose the league.
That's right.
But the parents only want points. Well, the first thing they want is playing time.
Yeah.
Then they want points. And then they want to be the leading scorer. And we kind of address those things at parent night in regards to it's a 5-man deal or 12-man, however many your team is. And this is our goal. If they can help us, they're getting in. If they can't help us, they're going to have to earn the time to get in. Fortunately for me, I think the older you get, the more credibility you have with parents, especially after sustained success. And, they don't question me too much anymore.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes it nice. Well, they're going to question a 30-year-old head coach because they're older. They're going to try and intimidate you, that kind of thing. I said, nah, at this stage, and I tell them in the paradise, one of the things I say is, I don't come to your job, tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.